Hello and welcome to How Do You Keep Well podcast. On this podcast, we unlock the secrets to feeling amazing in your mind, in your body, and in your soul. My name is Dr. Jaye. I'm your host and I'm your cheerleader and your guide as we navigate the fascinating world of women's health and well-being in this season of this podcast. Now, if you're ready to learn, if you're ready to laugh, and if you're ready to take charge of your health, then you've come to the right place. My mission here is simple. I'm here to empower you, to increase your awareness, and hopefully help you to develop some strategies or inspire you to start looking after yourself well. This podcast is for women, but men are welcome too. And I want you, as you listen, to begin to imagine yourself live your life to the fullest, your healthiest, and to the best of your ability. I believe that when women thrive, entire communities thrive. So, welcome. My hope is that I can create a very, maybe tiny ripple of well being. And every podcast episode is going to leave you with something practical, something uplifting, and something that makes you say, oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, should we get going? So, definitely, we're going to be talking about real solutions to real problems in women health. Okay, whether it's mindfulness or self-care tools and we're going to be looking at different aspects of your body, your gut health, your brain health. But for today, we will be starting on a very unique foundation of menopause and perimenopause. I'm not going to be going into all the nitty gritty of hormones, estrogen, progesterone, FSH. There are so many other places you can learn that. But my hope is that this podcast today will help you start thinking about what you can do, how you can prepare your life, how you can prepare yourself for the next phase of life. When we are expecting, when a woman is pregnant and they're expecting a baby, you have so many information. You have all sorts of clubs and communities will tell you what to expect. But when you're entering into midlife, everything just goes very quiet. And then menopause becomes the big thing. Why is there so much hype about menopause, for goodness sake? I just don't understand. But anyway, guys, I'll be here to support you through your midlife journey. You can always look to me or to any other correct source of information as, yeah, she will be there with the right source of information. And let me start by saying there's no doubt that transition into midlife can be smooth for some people or stormy. Sometimes a number of medical problems can appear to just sneak in on you overnight. I remember very, very clearly where one day I was absolutely fine. And the next day I was shuffling down my bum down our stairs because I was so exhausted. I could not even go on my morning walk. Can you imagine? My morning walk is one of my most important parts of my morning's routine. And when this happened, I think it really brought home some of these changes or some of these efforts or activities or intentional things that I do every day. And one thing it did was change my perspective on midlife health. Even though I wasn't getting honey hot flushes and I was more or less sleeping well, but the tiredness was impressive. Why? The other thing I noticed was I was sleeping like around 5 o'clock in the evening. I was getting tired quite early in the evening, which was very unlike me. And gradually, I began to see certain things in my life that I had seen in the lives of the older women who I have got to know over the years. And I was even more scared. Like, what is going on here? Definitely navigating hormone transitions can be a scary thing, whether it's perimenopause or menopause or hormonal changes. They have a profound and multifaceted impact on a woman's quality of life. And when I say quality, I'm talking about our physical well being, psychological well being, sexual well being, and social well being. Most women at this stage of life would also have a number of what I call pressures. They have aging parents, life commitments, teenage children, and some lucky ones may even have an empty nest. Unfortunately, a lot of women also go through relationship problems, incredible relationship problems during this phase of their lives. Which category do you fall into? I've talked before on this podcast about the panini generation. Panini, how it's squished from every angle. That's what some women are experiencing right now in midlife. They are hard pressed on every side. Whether or not it's just looking after their aging parents, or whether or not it's looking after children or their relationship, but also the physical symptoms they are getting in their body. And one of the things I often hear women talk about at this stage of life is that they are struggling to switch off at night. They've walked their body through the day, they walked their mind through the day, and they are struggling to switch off at night. Now, what can they do? Why do some women even experience this faster than other people? Today, I'll be sharing these stories with you to help you maybe understand at a deeper level what can happen to a woman. So let me start with this first story. Please, this story is I've just used a random name. It's very unlikely that you would have met this person I've talked about or know this person. But if you do, just see if, or perhaps if you can relate with this story, I want you to think about yourself. As I say this story, I'll describe the story of Anna. And I met this lady completely in a different setting. She had spent a number of her life, a major part of her working life. I think she was probably in her late 40s when I met her. She had worked in a male dominated environment for so long. She's always been very sharp, very decisive, and always she knew what she was doing. It was a very male dominated work environment. So she really needed to be sharp. But now she was finding that her words were just slipping away mid sentence. And she could see that her colleagues were looking at her in a kind of worrying way. She even heard sometimes people hesitating when they speak to her. And she thought, well, am I losing it a little bit? But nonetheless, she powered through her meeting. Sometimes, having not slept well at night, she was masking a lot of pain, even inside her joints as well. At home, it was another story completely. Our patients wore thin. The smallest thing would make her snap. Her husband humming, her daughter not tying her shoelaces, and then came the guilt. She was not recognizing herself again. In fact, sleep was like, what is sleep nowadays? Sleep had become an old friend who rarely visited. You would often find her awake at 3 a.m. in the morning. Her bed sheets were damp and wet. And in fact, she was struggling to breathe because the air felt too thick as well. She tried all sorts. She tried herbal teas. She even tried mindfulness with Dr. Jaye. She tried sleeping in a separate room. Nothing felt like it was enough. One day, after having a very bad argument with her partner, her husband, she thought she had overreacted. She broke down crying. I don't know who I am anymore, she said. I don't know who I am. I'm just pushing everyone away. And that was the moment she knew she needed help. Now, I don't know what part of this story you can relate to. But wait a minute, let me tell you the second story. Now, this second story is a little bit more intimate. And again, this is just a random name. So if your name is Lola, please forgive me. I'm not talking about your own Lola. But again, it's another true life story. So Lola, one day she just opened her drawer and she saw all the various gifts of underwear, lingerie that she had received from her husband back when desire came effortlessly. Now, intimacy felt like an obligation. It was painful. It was more like a hollow routine. She was not looking forward to it anymore. She loved her husband and she kind of missed him as well. But how could she explain the way her body had betrayed her? The dryness she was feeling inside her vagina, the discomforts, the way our once vivid passion had dimmed to a flicker. At work, she still tried her best, as every woman does, putting a mask on, smiling at everybody. But definitely, she was avoiding any invitations to occasions. Socializing felt exhausting. I know what that feels like, 100%. The vibrant, confident woman she once was had become a shadow. It felt like she was watching herself. She was withdrawing from life. It was almost like she was waiting for something to change. One night, after yet another quiet dinner with her husband, I think he kind of touched her and said, "Talk to me, Lola." And that's how she just started crying. Just like that, little things can make some women cry during this period of life. And then she confessed, she said, "I feel like I'm disappearing." That night, they searched for answers together. And for the first time in a long time, Lola felt seen. Now, these stories I have described to you just shows you the raw reality of perimenopause and menopause. One day, some women feel absolutely well, and the next day, things crumbling down. And it just feels like they are going mad. I'm sure this wasn't how I felt yesterday. Why am I feeling like this today? And this has incredible impacts on their work, on their relationships, on their self identity. And I personally, as a woman in my 40s, as a doctor, and as a doctor who likes looking after women, I often ask myself, why does menopause matter so much? What's the hype about menopause? And I think really you don't know until you know. Once you start exposing yourself to information about menopause, you begin to understand your body better and you begin to relate to people in a slightly different way from a place of understanding, but also from a place of valuing yourself as a woman and the experiences that you are going through. Now, they say menopause is not an illness, right? But many people experience significant changes to their personality, to their physical body. I remember a woman telling me she couldn't look at herself in the mirror, and I thought, wow, this thing is serious. And sometimes, like I said, women feel like they are going crazy. Remember, this is not a phase you simply have to endure. Even if you don't want to use HRT, which I'll come to later, there's something for you. With the right information, you can make simple choices that would usher you into actually a transformational and exciting chapter of your life filled with joy and filled with great health. So, whether you're experiencing the first signs of perimenopause or you're well into menopause or you're post menopause, there are things you can do right now to improve your health, relieve your symptoms, and protect yourself as you age. So, like I said earlier on, why do some women feel it more than others? And to be honest, I really wondered why some midlife women, I see some women in their early 40s, and I just wondered, why are they having so many issues right now? And I remember one lady in particular, I had seen her very early stages of my career as a women's health doctor. She had so many symptoms, and I think she probably was the one that triggered me exploring perimenopause a bit more because I just thought this can't be. I mean, we did all the blood tests, we couldn't find anything. So there are some women who will feel the symptoms of hormone transition more than others. And it can be due to a number of different factors. So I want you to listen carefully, see if you can relate with any of this. There are some factors that are completely out of your control. So sometimes it's your genes, sometimes it is a traumatic life event. I'm sorry to say this, but definitely there are some life events some women go through, especially when they are at a younger age, that can make them more likely to experience a number of symptoms in their midlife that is due to early menopause. Sometimes stress of life accumulated over a period of our lives from our 20s to 30s to 40 can lead to chronic inflammation in the body as well. And I'll talk a bit more about this later. There are also factors that we cannot control, that are actually under our control. We talked about factors we cannot control. but there are also factors that we can control. And for me, it is mainly our health behaviors and habits that we pick up over the years. And this has a huge impact on how our body experiences menopause or perimenopause. And some of these actually have so much impact on how the hormones even talk to each other. Again, these are all very scientific details, and I'm trying to explain them in a way that is easy to understand for you. The truth is that a number of symptoms of stress, so let's use stress as an example. Sometimes stress is a lifestyle, it's a lifestyle issue. Some people actually thrive with stress. And as such, they don't know what is happening inside their body is that there's chronic inflammation building up over a number of years. And I always describe stress like this. You know how it is when you have a car accident and then you just get down from the car and you feel like, oh, I mean, some car accidents are really, really bad, but maybe the simple ones where you just get bumped behind or a car smashes into your side and thankfully you haven't lost your life. Most people just get down and be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go to A&E to get myself checked over. But what happens is that on that day, the shock of the accident, you probably don't feel a lot of the pain. You will get pains here and there, but the next day, the neck pain starts. And then the following weeks and weeks, some people for months after a car accident, they still feel pain in their neck and they're having treatment for this. And that's what stress is like sometimes. The initial incident or the situation or events that lead up to stress may have gone. After that, long time after that, you will still be feeling the aftermath, if impact of stress in your body. So I think that stress has a major role, and we will talk about other factors that help make women feel or get symptoms earlier than others. We will talk about that, and I have an interesting acronym called SIN. Stay with me if you want to know what SIN means. SIN, SIN. So let's go more scientific now. Now, some studies have confirmed that socioeconomic variation also have an impact on how or when women begin to experience their menopause symptoms. Now, when I say socioeconomic variation, I'm actually talking about social conditions, the environment we live in socially, how it nurtures us, but also the economic conditions, our economic earning power, and the way how we experience our creative pursuits and all of that. And some studies actually argue that women who are highly educated have a reduced severity of menopausal symptoms. Maybe because they have better access to resources or they have higher health literacy and they have an improved economic status so they can afford to do these things. I think I want to agree with that because the average woman, perhaps back home in Nigeria, probably would not even be thinking about perimenopause or menopause. Most people are just hustling away or kind of doing things to earn money and preserve their family life or their business ventures. So many people don't actually think about it or go to talk about it for the average woman, but people who have higher education are more educated and more literate and go out to seek information. So I feel personally that majority of women may not actually be recognizing or protecting themselves in this crucial time. And this is why I am very passionate about menopause health or midlife health. I feel that educating women beyond the walls of my consultation room is really important. And for me, this is my own tiny little mission. More and more, I see women dropping off the bandwagon once it gets to the age of 50, they stop working or they reduce their hours. I personally have had to reduce my hours, even though I've been doing a lot more of the things I actually enjoy doing as well. And you just notice that some women just age much more quickly. And I wonder why. And I think that access to the right information is really important. Accessing support and help from medical professionals or even other people. There are so many other people you can access support from nowadays. But also they assume that their problem is stress. I'm just stressed. I'm just stressed. That's what many people assume their problem. There's a lot of assumption. There's a lack of support. There's people are not getting the right information. One would think that the way we talk about menopause all over the media, everybody would know about it. I still meet women every day who have no idea what they are going through. So please don't assume. Now, one of the things I also wondered was, how did women manage 40, 50 years ago when there was maybe not a lot of HLT around at the time? Mm. And also, in those days, half a century ago, not many women felt comfortable about talking about their women's health needs with a man doctor. So I question if there was any education about it at all. People were just living their life every day, not really bothering about this at all. And when I speak to some women, they don't actually have a clue what their mom went through or their older siblings went through because people don't really talk about it. Let me tell you a little story. I remember the first time I went to talk to my mom about menstruation. I was a little 7 to 8 year old curious little girl, and I remember my mom making food in the kitchen, and I just popped in to say, "Mom, tell me about menstruation." You should have seen the kind of eye she gave me at that time. I just silently slipped away from the kitchen, like, well, that's it then. So I really had to read about things like that in books. And I remember one of my friends, Yadne, who taught me a lot. She taught me about the menstrual diary. If you're listening, hello. So I'm sorry for this general digression. Anyway, I certainly believe that the general lifestyle pattern half a century ago was definitely different from what we have now. I think the diet was more wholesome and there was more activity in terms of exercise, not maybe exercise, but maybe the kind of general activities people move around a lot more. And maybe there was a lot more stress, less stress. I don't know. I wasn't in that era then. But but also we know the life expectancy was shorter in those days as well. So I personally don't know how women managed through in the past. There would have been some good things that helped them, but there could have been things that we are doing better of nowadays. What we now have is what I call Gen M women who are very woke and who want to have a better midlife and they want to stay fit as long as possible. So we are now all looking for answers. But are we looking in the right places? So, back to the question, why do some women feel this more than others? Another scientific answer I found was our reproductive factors. Now, this collectively contributes to the various experiences and the severity of the symptoms among women. So, for example, women who undergo surgical menopause, hysterectomy, or bilateral oophorectomy may experience more severe symptoms compared to those who undergo natural menopause. So, experiencing menopause at an earlier age can actually make people have more severe symptoms than others. Now, what about older women or women who have gone post menopause? They tend to have some more symptoms more than the younger women. They have more of sexual, psychological, and what I call the vasomotor symptoms. So things like hot flushes and hot sweats at night and blood pressure changes and all of those. Most postmenopausal women develop that a bit more. So, a number of different factors that generally contribute to how quickly or how severely some women experience some symptoms. And the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause are many, too many for me to go into in this podcast, but there's a lot of information. There are lots of men's diaries and symptom trackers that you can get. And if you wish to get one of these, why don't you contact me directly and I'll send one to you free of charge. If you want to track your symptoms, or if you're a man and you want to track your wife's symptoms, you know what? It's okay. You can send me an email. I will keep it a secret, all right? But definitely, there are clinical factors. So things like a woman's body mass index or history of even chronic diseases like blood pressure, diabetes, or just their general health status can affect how quickly or how severely they feel symptoms. Now, I always talk about lifestyle, and lifestyle is about your health habits and also your health behaviors. Now, your physical activity levels, if you drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes, or what kind of foods you eat, especially if you eat a lot of processed food, it is very likely that you'll be getting symptoms of menopause or perimenopause a little bit earlier because of the chronic inflammation that happens in the body. Now, there are also psychosocial characteristics. Now, psycho is basically psychological, and these are women who are experiencing anxiety or depression or have problems generally with their emotional well-being. So whether it's just anger or mood swings, these women tend to experience their symptoms a little bit quicker and a bit more severely than other women. But you know what? The common truth is behind all this is that our body is changing. Menopause is like the signal to us that something is happening internally. When the periods begin to dwindle and they begin to stop, that is a sign that there is a lot more. That is just a sign. There are so many other signs internally that tells us that we are advancing in age. Hormonal change is just one of these many changes that is happening. There's blood vessel changes, there's fat changes, there's metabolic changes that is going on. There's so many other things. Now, the truth is that we cannot afford to just focus on just HRT or female hormonal changes or hormone without looking at the other aspects of our body. And that is where I feel when I talk about midlife health, it captures everything, including aging as well as the hormonal changes we are experiencing. Now, I like the fact that there's always an explanation for everything. I was listening to Dr. Wendy Sweet, who I happen to be training with, and she was explaining the several theories of aging we have now. And here are some of the theories that have been shared. I don't know if you've heard of this, but please listen carefully. There's the evolutionary theory, which is basically a grandmother theory, which implies that older women had to stop producing babies at some point so they can look after the younger generation. That's very convenient, isn't it? So that means their body had to age quickly. Otherwise, they will keep producing babies at the same time as their daughters, at the same time as their grandchildren. So something had to stop at some point. We can't keep going on like this. The other theory is the immune theory of aging. And this explains why our body ages because the immune system is not as active as it used to be due to a number of different triggers in the system, in our body system. And this is where it's really important to use our diet to boost our immune system up as best as possible. Now, the third one I would talk about is the inflammatory theory of aging. And this explains the basis or the foundation or the concept of lifestyle diseases, where we have obesity, diabetes, and this is all explained by the fact that there is chronic inflammation within the system. There are two types of inflammation, there's acute and there's chronic. Acute is what we see when we have a tiny little cut and we or on our skin, and then the skin becomes red and inflamed, but after a few days it settles down. That's acute inflammation. A chronic inflammation is like having a cut on the inside that never heals and it keeps going on, red, swollen. And the truth is that we are all exposed to this in our life. By the time we arrive in midlife, our body is carrying a degree of chronic inflammation from our past lifestyle. And the risk factors over time continue to cause this chronic inflammation to be constant and consistent. So by the time the longer exposure to environmental stress, lack of sleep, eating highly processed food, my goodness, exposure to toxins, especially like the cosmetics that we use, the hair straightening things that we put in our hair, all sorts of beauty products. Most of them contain quite a lot of toxins. Now, all of this increase the degree of internal inflammation, the type of inflammation we can see that is going on internally inside our body. And then we have the double whammy of menopause. Virtually every organ in the body contains estrogen receptors. Receptors are like the little keys that open and closes the cells inside our body. Now, once estrogen comes, they activate some of these receptors. But when the estrogen levels begin to drop, now some of these receptors don't work anymore. And these hormonal fluctuations that happen in menopause affect all parts of our body. Now, the decline or the reducing levels of estrogen has powerful anti inflammatory effects. And they also trigger a cascade of low grade inflammation that can reach every cell. And in fact, a study in 2020 in the Journal of Neuroinflammation describes the menopausal transition as an inflammatory event for this reason. Okay, so that is the inflammatory theory of aging. And the final one, the lifespan theory. And this is based mainly on the concept of the telomeres, the special caps that is at the end of our DNA. And these caps shorten down, they shorten, they reduce in length as a result of oxidative stress or natural aging or chronic inflammation. So, yes, there is a lot going on in our body. And here is what I call sin, okay? When I brew this down into a condensed form, three factors stand out to me: stress, inflammation, and natural aging. SIN, sin. These are the three main factors I feel that contribute to our midlife well being. Addressing these three factors in an intentional way can cause us to live a life of abundance, health, and happiness during our hormone transition with or without HL3. So, embracing these three areas can make a big difference. Okay. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later down the line. So, as I mentioned before, the menopause transition is a major life milestone. But there are other features of midlife aging that is still going on, which also has major contributions to the health and well-being of women in midlife and later life. Menopause is a natural process that happens to every woman. Every woman would experience it in different ways. And that's why I support women who wish to explore options that suit their personal needs. Every woman is going to be different. We already talked about how social, economic, reproductive, clinical, lifestyle habits, psychological, and of course, genetic factors can affect how women experience symptoms in this phase of life. If you have a woman in this phase of life, hold them close, show them you support them. And it may well be holding space for them, to just hear them, to listen to them, to support them, to tell them that you're here for them, whatever they are going through. Now, I go on to this next bit, which is there a solution for these midlife travails of a woman? Of course, the answer is a big fat yes. Like I say, no one size fits all. And there is one important study I would like to highlight, and it is this: the study of women's health across the nation, what people call SWAN study. The SWAN study has identified midlife as the perfect time or the critical time where you can all adopt healthy behavior and preventative strategies that would help us live happy and well. They talked about it as midlife as is the window of opportunity for most people, men and women, to develop that awareness of their body needs, to begin to design preventing strategies as well as practicing healthy behaviors. And I'll tell you how to do this further down. Now, what I really liked about this study also is that it gives us a deeper understanding of the impact of menopause transition versus midlife aging. Now, these two things are completely different but are interrelated. And this one study gives us a deeper understanding what actually are the symptoms of menopause, what actually are the symptoms of aging, and they give us a clear picture. And if you want an access to this particular study, let me know. I will send you the links. It's free, it's available on the internet. Okay, I won't go into all of the specific details, but I would like to point out here that midlife aging starts from the age of 40. And what is midlife aging? If you think about the number of years women live, let's say average of 80, most women will start aging from the age of 40. And that's what I call midlife aging. Okay. But menopause transition again starts around the same time for most women. So, for example, midlife aging, according to this one study, is the main contribution to midlife aging, or either vice versa. Depression, anxiety, urinary incontinence, cognitive performance. These are all symptoms of midlife aging compared to the symptoms of menopause, which is mainly things like cognitive difficulties, the brain fog that people have, the vaginal dryness, the hot flushes, the night sweats, problems sleeping, problems with sex, even the physical performance reduces, and also all the other metabolic changes, the cholesterol changes, the increased risk of metabolic syndrome. These are all symptoms of menopause transition. Okay, and things like even bone mineral density as well. Window of opportunity, like I said, is the midlife. You create awareness for your own self. You begin to adopt some health behaviors and you begin to design early preventive practices. So, this is why a focus on your health at midlife is important. Don't play with it. If you're listening to me at the sound of my voice today, you have a role to play in this. Improve your own awareness. Design your own personalized strategy. And I have a YouTube access for this if you want to listen to how to develop your own personalized strategy. And also plan as a woman, and also supporting the women in your life who might be getting to this stage is really important. And you can support a woman, first of all, by improving your own awareness, creating an understanding space for the woman, inspiring changes in lifestyle and health behavior, especially when a woman wants to do the same as well. Please encourage them. Don't wait till you get hot flushes. And then the question is, how can I help myself? Now, remember, we talked about those three factors in aging: sin, stress, inflammation, and natural aging. Now, stress, first of all, if you have a desire to help yourself, look at your triggers for stress right now and ask yourself, are you regularly distressing? Do you have your own mental health day? Your own personalized mental health day. You need to have it, yeah? Okay? Whether it's a monthly routine or a 3 monthly routine, you should have that me time as much as possible. Fight for it, be intentional for it. It will do you good. It will do good for those around you as well. And you don't need to break a bank for this. Explore relaxing pursuits, whether it's yoga, whether it's reading a book, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's listening to music, or just walking outdoors. You can help with lowering stress hormone levels. These stress hormone levels are the ones that trigger that imbalance of hormones in the body as well. We've talked about I for inflammation, and inflammation basically, we've talked about the what causes inflammation. But we can turn this around, you know that, through what we eat, how we move, and how we rest. Now, it's really important to understand at this stage of our life, there are some mechanical changes going on to our bones, to our muscles, to our tendons. So you have to understand that after you have done quite rigorous or vigorous exercises, you need to plan your rest days into your routine. But also our diet. Oh God, I know you hear a lot about diet from different people, but I think we can't say this enough. The more we hear about it, I'm hoping the more we'll be motivated to do something about it. But the information and the evidence we have, particularly around processed food, is too much to ignore. Ignore it at your own detriment. Processed sugar, processed carbohydrates, they fuel inflammation inside the body, whether it's things like cookies, candies, pasta, cereals, or microwavable meals. As part of addressing or turning around inflammation through your lifestyle, you also need to address any key medical problems that we've talked about, especially things like obesity, hypertension, and diabetes. Look at it. If you don't know your numbers, go and try and find out what your numbers are. And finally, it is natural aging. Now, under this topic, I really want you to focus on how you are embracing aging. In fact, studies have shown that people who have a positive mindset towards aging actually live longer. So find the time to enhance your connections, your purpose, and adapting our environment such that you can be more welcoming of your own environment, invite people into your space, create space for other people as well. So, in conclusion, drum roll. Have you been listening? I hope you've been enjoying this. Four things to do once you reach the age of 40. And this can be any time, whether you just reach 40 or 45 or any milestones you've reached once you're in your 40s. Create at least one sustainable, practical, personalized health routine that you can keep on doing come rain, come shine. I have found one activity that I can do anytime. And this started with gently nurturing it from my early 40s. And I'm 40, I don't want to tell you my age now, but I found that doing these particular activities help me a lot. The second thing you must do once you've reached the age of 40 and beyond is that you need to identify any weak points in your health. Now, think of your metabolic health, your immunity, and stress, inflammation, your gut health, your brain health, your heart health, and your lifestyle. Address this. Of course, you might need professional health. Embrace it. One of the things I do in my monthly emails is to write about one well-being topic. Even if you just have 12 of those in a year, you can make changes. You can break this down into monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals. So identify any weak point in your health and address it. Now, the third thing is become open to hormonal milestones in your health and seek early help. Okay. It's really important if you're beginning to feel tired or not sleeping well or hot flushes or losing air or your skin is becoming strange or you're having ear problems, then try to seek early help. There's no shame. People are willing to listen to you. And finally, begin to work on creating a sense of purpose for yourself. Whether it's a passion project or a pursuit, it will keep you going long afterwards. If you're a woman in midlife experiencing perimenopause or menopause and you wish to connect with my resources, please feel free to join my waitlist for the Midlife and Menopause Wellbeing Program, which will be starting very soon. Email me at info@drjaye.com and say, I'm interested. And that's all. I'm interested in the midlife and menopause well-being program. And that's all. And I'll send you out information once we've gotten it all ready. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough for listening all the way to the very end of this podcast. I honestly am very excited about the lineup of speakers that I have on women's health. In fact, I'm so grateful for everybody who has said a yes to me to come and speak to you, my lovely listeners. It is going to be awesome journey this year. So stay tuned as I'll be bringing women from every walk of life to talk about all the various symptoms women experience in midlife. So you hang on there and keep on listening and keep on keeping well. It's me once again. Please like, please subscribe, please share the podcast, and please leave your comments for me so that I can follow this up later. All right, take care and bye 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 bye.